The Olsinski Law Firm is an official sponsor of Top Bin 90, specializing in personal injury, criminal defense, DWI, family law, and workers' compensation. The Olsinski Law Firm provides professional, trusted legal services to clients facing a variety of challenges. With a team of experienced attorneys dedicated to protecting your rights, the Olsinski Law Firm is the legal support you can count on.
Hi, I'm Justin Olsinski, the founding partner of the Olsinski Law Firm. Me and my wife started this firm back in 2010 with the sole purpose of providing excellent service to our clients, giving our clients a personal touch because we had worked in bigger firms where we saw that not happening. We handle criminal defense matters, civil personal injury, wrongful death, workers' comp, and family law matters. We have a team of attorneys that care about the outcome of your case, and we will fight to make sure that you get the justice you deserve.
Hello and welcome to episode 67 of the Top Bin 90 podcast. Obviously, after Kids Night, we had to do episode 6-7. You guys synchronized that. With me, I have my co-host, Mr. Brian Bam Media. How are you?
Yeah, just a couple of onks synchronized 6-7ing,
And we also have a friend of the show, Mr. Vaughn Pullman, on tonight. How are you?
Oh man, I'm so pumped to be back. I've been itching. I've been jonesing to get back on. So yeah, no, I'm pumped to be here, guys.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. We got a lot of topics to cover tonight. Obviously, since our last podcast episode, we had two games, one brutal draw in Toronto, and then a really convincing win here in Charlotte this past Saturday. A mysterious player has shown up at Charlotte FC, and so that's everybody's been on a hunt today to figure out who it is, and we're going to talk about all of that today. And so I guess let's get started. I first want to go briefly on the draw in Toronto. Obviously, like, if you look at it, right, these past three games, if you tell me you're going to get 7 out of 9 points, I'm good with it, right? But it's just the manner that Charlotte FC likes to do things that really annoys me. And I'll start off with you, Brian. Give us your thoughts on that Toronto game.
Yeah, I mean, I think everything was going kind of according to plan. Kind of how we talked about on the last show. I really felt pretty comfortable and confident with how the team was playing going up into these games specifically because of where Toronto was at in the standings, who they were going to be missing. Specifically, I felt like Mihailovic and Osorio being out was going to be a big concern for them. And so I felt like Charlotte should have been in a comfortable position, which they were up until the moment that they were not. And I feel like it's still kind of inexplicable, like how both of those goals kind of happened after it was 3-1. I think even though it's kind of being chalked up by the team as like two bad moments, I still feel like the bigger question is like, why can't they establish a little bit more control to maybe reduce the likelihood of those kind of bad moments happening? Because even outside of those two opportunities that Toronto had, I feel like they still had a few other, maybe not like super clean looks, but they were still like getting opportunities in transition and finding moments in space and stuff like that. And it's like, if you're up a man and you should have this team that's not really contending for much at the moment, like you should have them on the ropes. And so I feel like that for me is a bigger question mark.
Yeah, for sure. And so, I mean, I was a little heated right after. And so I think everybody saw my video where, I think now I can count multiple times this season where I'm like, if you have a really good game, like if you would have drawn 11v11 and, it was a good back and forth game, okay, like I can accept it. But again, it's just the manner and how some of these things are set up perfectly for Charlotte to just, hit it out of the park, and they don't. And so, Vaughn, talk to us about that Toronto game.
Yeah, the problem is it's that we all feel the level that this team can be at. And we've grown accustomed to the roller coaster, right? We've talked about all 5 years.
It's a good way of putting it, yeah.
And the game against Toronto, it was nauseating. I was ready to get off the ride. I think everybody got to the end of the ride and they were like, man, that did not make me feel good. That was a good roller coaster until it was not a good roller coaster. And so the feeling was just like the letdown, right? It's that good teams and great teams, there's very little that separates them in MLS. And we can recognize that this team can be a good team and feels like it has these moments that we can cross into that next tier. Like we're so close. The talent is there, and it's like, man, if we just play a little bit differently or a slightly different tactics, those were identified as bad moments, but to me, they were avoidable moments. And that was the frustrating thing, is like, just close out more aggressively. Play with that little extra aggression, not reckless aggression, but just challenge the opponent a little bit more, and the result goes another way. And so it felt like it was within our control, and we lost control of something. And so that's the frustration. Is like, yeah, we settle. The silver lining is we've got 7 points. We should have 9. We should feel more upset that we don't have 9.
Yeah, absolutely.
If we want
And
to cross into that next level, we have to get 9 from those 3 results.
yeah, and I think Caleb in our group chat mentioned that, like, like this team, like, it's a team set up to be competitive, like when you're looking at it. And the more, like, I see the moments right during matches, it's like, okay, this could be a really good team. I still don't think we're in that tier one of the Nashvilles, maybe Inter Miamis of the world just yet, but we're getting close. But sometimes it just feels like, there's this certain mental regression that we have. And like you mentioned, that roller coaster is what annoys me and frustrates me the most, And so obviously in that game as well, we saw, I want to say, probably one of the best versions of a Loco we've seen this season, right? And so a lot of positives to take from that game. I think Idan Toklomati getting back on the score sheet, even though there's a wild miss by Leo Labada.
Yeah.
But seeing him get on the score sheet was important. Obviously, seeing ASM come in again and actually looking like a proper, DP. And so I've been very impressed with him in his times that he's been playing for Charlotte. Vaughn, just your early analysis of a guy like ASM so far.
I mean, you can see the class that he has on the ball, that he can make things happen from nothing. Just put the ball at his feet, and magic can occur. His field vision has been great. I've been pleasantly surprised by his willingness to drop in and get all around the field. He's really willing to make those central runs. He's finding those release passes. He's playing aggressively. He's playing front-footed. He's trying to impart his style on the game, and that is refreshing to see. It's something that I think raises the level of the club, and yeah, we're gonna have to see how teams adapt to that, right? Like we saw with Zaha, he had that ability, but teams found ways to minimize him at times. And so, how is Maxi going to do over time once teams get more film on him, once they play him a couple times, once you see what you can and can't get away with him? That will be the interesting thing. But the early returns are, no, we have a dynamic player who is going to create both on the dribble, with his passing, with his vision, with his aggression, with his willingness to take shots from multiple angles, and I think also has the right demeanor. I think I really like his approach in how he presents himself on the field, and as well as off the field, but especially on the field. So yeah, those are the early returns on Maxi for me.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Brian, you mentioned it. It's definitely a player that, like, will give you a moment where you'll kind of get up out of your seat and be like, okay, this is something exciting. And honestly, Charlotte kind of needs that as well.
Yeah.
And so um I also want to touch on Henry Kessler, right? He scored that match as well, and so he looks like he's finding himself again. Like, you got to pray that he stays healthy, right? And so, Brian, do you want to touch on him a little bit?
Yeah, I think the one trait that really stood out to me in that Toronto game was the through ball that he put in to Aloko that put him in for that second goal when he made then the pass, the vision for Kessler to make that play. I think that's what now you have when, I mean, ideally Ream doesn't get stuck 1v1, but when you have both of them kind of able to keep the game in front of them and they can make the passes like that on either side. I mean, that I think that's a real problem for opposition when you have the ability to either play short or have both center backs capable of hitting either of your wings, like with those kind of passes. I think that poses a real problem, and I think that's what I really appreciated from Kessler in this the midweek game. And just also, again, I think it's a little bit of composure. There was a couple times when he was able to drop back and make the recovery run and make that tackle. And so I think it's just a combination of maybe just a little bit younger version of Reem, with a little bit, with still having the experience, but at the same time, also just having sort of that ability to maybe make some of those challenges that we've seen. I feel like Reem get kind of stuck in on and get dunked on a little bit. And so I feel like having an experienced guy who also still has his legs a little bit, stronger, I think is a good combo to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we talked about like, competing positions in the back line, and we see a lot of that now. I mean, we're seeing goals moving forward, but it's kind of interesting, and I'll kind of segue into this next game too, where like there's more options in the back line, but I feel like we're letting on a lot of goals, and so more competition, but still the volume of goals. I mean, if you're telling me Charlotte FC scoring 3 goals in an away match, I'd be like, that's phenomenal, but also at the same time we're conceding three, against a 10-man team. So um again, like I said, like there's still that, like, Charlotte excites me, but I think I put it in our title, like Charlotte. It's a Charlotte that promises, but still doesn't quite deliver for me. And so let's move on and talk a little bit about that DC game as well. Obviously, we wanted to see a bounce back from the team, um, and I think even them going down in this match and turning it around, that's at least a positive. Like, okay, like they didn't just like mentally deflate this game. And so we saw the first start from Alan St. Maximin, Rodolfo Loco, and Edon were the players up top. And we saw Luca and Pepiel and Ashley Westwood, that midfield trio. So I thought like Dean started this game like pretty aggressive, like, hey, like let's go win this match. And so first, Brian, I want to start with you and talk to me a little bit about the ASM's first start at the bank.
Yeah, I mean, I was super surprised. Clearly, Dean was playing some mind games in the press conference because he pretty much straight up said point blank he didn't feel comfortable starting him yet. Obviously, that was a little bit of trickery on his part, but then I mean, it seemed like he was almost ready to push him the full 90. I mean, he was out there until after 80 minutes, which is, I mean, I think that's good that he's that comfortable actually playing him for that long and willing to kind of push him a little bit. Obviously, it was a little scary there at the end when he has to, limp off and get subbed off because of a injury. It doesn't sound like it's anything serious, so that's the huge plus there. I will say, I kind of double clicking on Vaughn's point about his demeanor when he was just like juggling the ball around on the field and just like getting the crowd into it. I think he's like that aspect of his personality on the field is perfect for what a DP is in this league in terms of just expressing somebody's individual traits and stuff. Like that's kind of what the DP position does. And players that kind of are willing to take on that type of responsibility, say I'm the guy. I think around the world there's a lot of teams and leagues and countries where that's just not really preached all that often. And so, but in MLS it is. I mean, that's just how the contract situation works out. So you have 3 guys that are kind of going to be in a spot where contractually they kind of have to be able to stand up and be like, hey, no, like give me the rock. And the fact that ASM clearly is capable of handling that kind of focus is a huge plus. And I feel like that actually kind of differentiates him from how Zaha approached it. I mean, straight up from that press conference where we were at Jorge in the playoffs when Zaha was like, hey man, there's 20 other guys in the field, and they kind of walked away from some of that responsibility. I don't feel like, from what I've seen from ASM so far, that he's
That's a good point.
from any of the responsibility at all.
Yeah, I like that, and he knows how to say it too. Like
Yeah.
he really gave. I really like, and I touched on this last week where he gave his props to Pep Biel. He said, "Hey, he's the best player on this
Yep.
team, and I'm here to kind of help him out as well." you know,
Yeah.
and so okay, like, like obviously we're gonna be looking at you, but he also understands, like, kind of giving the limelight to our main guy right now. And speaking of Pep Biel, Vaughn, another goal and another assist for this guy. I mean, it's
2 assists.
kind yeah, 2 assists. Kind of crazy to think about. He was a Calvin Stings away signing from not coming to Charlotte FC, and he turns out to be our best player.
It That's the thing, is you never know what you're going to get with some guys, right? That's the beauty of MLS, is how many people watched a single game of Pep Biel before he was a member of the club. Very, very few. And everybody was hyped about Stangs. And then the narrative became, oh, we settled for second best. And at this point, Pep Biel, I think, is well on his way to being the undisputed best player in Charlotte FC's young history. I think his only competition is Swiderski. And I think Pep Biel is about to go right past that. He's going to set all the records this year for most goals in a season, most goal contributions. I don't know if he'll get most assists because he set that bar last year, but he's a class player, and everybody can recognize it. And this is another thing. If you take a look down, just take a look at the East standings and go team by team. To that point, the DPs, the teams that have DPs that step up and that you can rely on game in and game out, like that's kind of the standings. Like, you look at Nashville, and it's a clear answer who the best player is. You go Miami, clear answer who they're leaning on, and just keep going down the list. And it kind of makes sense where teams fall in the standings based off of just their DPs. And then you get to the teams that are below the playoff line, and you're like, who's the guy? And for us, it's Pep Biel, and he is having a phenomenal season. And he is our motor, and we have to make sure that him and Maxi are healthy going down the stretch, because that is what is going to dictate what we can do come playoff time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, for me, he just continues to, again, like, I think I'm comfortable enough to say that he's the best player in Charlotte FC history now. It's kind of it's kind of just a fact for me now. And throw him on the right, he's still going to produce, right? He obviously prefers to be more central. Get him back to that 10 spot, he's going to produce, right? And I think he's really happy here. And so just seeing him take multiple loan deals to finally get a concrete deal, um, I think we're seeing it this season, where, like, okay, like, one thing we talked about last year was, like, okay, like, now that you're the DP10, right? That we know that that's kind of, uh, now that you're the DP, not the DP10, but the DP, we want to, like, see you continue to produce like this. And he hasn't stepped a foot wrong, which isn't great,
And
and
that
so
goal and 2 assists with the captain's armband on him. That's the other thing.
that's a great point to make too. And so seeing Ashley Westwood pass him the armband, right? And so I think he's already in that legend, becoming a legend at Charlotte FC. And so I also want to touch a little bit, and Vaughn, you can kind of start us off with this conversation as well, And so we saw a couple of goals from set pieces again. And so David Schnegg post match, touched on a little bit about that, the importance, kind of him saying, like, yo, we're practicing freaking set pieces again. But you know what? They're turning out to be producers for Charlotte FC.
It's a weapon. It's something that you have to execute, and it can elevate. Like I said, the margins are slim in MLS. It can take a team that is really okay, not that good, to, like, no, this is like your calling card, right? The note about Charlotte FC has been that we're a transitional team. I don't think that's really 100% true. I think we can do things in several different ways. We are transitional, but we're getting those set piece opportunities and converting them. And it's not just off of corners. It's not just off of free kicks, right? It's happening several different ways from both sides of the pitch. So clearly, our commitment to that, I know we have the dedicated set piece coach now. It's paying off. It's paying dividends, and we're not conceding many either. So it's being worked on both sides of the field. So I think it's something that can help level us up. It's something that, if that lightning isn't striking in the playoffs, can also be your undoing. So I think we have to continue that trend. But right now, yeah, it's a strength. If you go look, we're among the league leaders. Like that's our thing right now.
Absolutely. Brian, as a set piece enthusiast watching, Arsenal and Mikel Arteta, um, I think one, like Vaughn's mentioning it, it's just another tool. And also like seeing guys like some of these fullbacks like David Schnegg and Will Cleary scoring, I think kind of adds fuel to that fire as well, because these are two fullbacks that weren't the original starters starting the season, and now they're in full blown competition for that starting spot.
Yeah, they've. I mean, I think they've been both phenomenal. Cleary, especially, just because like ever since his debut, I've just been absolutely raving about him. The amount of questions he's had to answer already. I mean, just it's difficult for a player that young, that inexperienced, to have to handle that many situations. Again, the debut, having to be on the right and the left side and down a man and get that clean sheet and help the team win that game. But then in the most recent, this last week, Dean brought up the questions like, I don't know if I can trust Cleary yet, like to do multiple games in a week, because he just hasn't had to be at that speed that often and, with that kind of frequency. But he had to step up again because Byrne was still out and or just not ready to start. It looked like because he was on the bench, and Cleary answered the call again. So the amount of times he's had to answer the call so quickly, big props to him. And I feel like there's a real argument for him keeping that role because of his ability to be a two-way player. And I feel like honestly his two-way play at this point, from if I'm comparing Cleary now and the starts I've seen him make versus what I've seen Byrne of late, I feel like Cleary might be the better, like, complete two-way player at the moment. And I feel like there's a real argument for him keeping that spot. Schnegg, I feel like there's still sometimes, and Schnegg's even brought this up, like that sometimes there's question marks about his defending. Like I think he's aware of it, and Dean's brought it up, Schnegg's brought it up. So I think it's like it's out in the open, pretty clear that Schnegg likes to get forward, almost play as a winger, and he has to figure out that balance where he can be a little bit more two ways. Because I think that could be his undoing in terms of if like it's like when he got the red card, right? That could have been his undoing there. Or before that, it was I think it was they were on the road against New England, and he picked up. There was like a couple moments where he got cooked, and I think he also picked up a yellow there. That wasn't when he got the red; it was at home when he got the red. But I think it was both New England games where he kind of got beat a little bit. And so there's just moments like that where like these situations where defensively, I think he definitely needs to show that he can manage, especially the 1v1 moments, because that's also what kind of led to the undoing in Toronto. Dean doesn't blame it on Schnegg 1v1. He blames it on the result of the 1v1, but it started with Schnegg getting beat 1v1. So I think there's still definitely some question marks maybe about, I think Toff could catch him again. I think Schnegg's got the lead for me, but if Toff gets healthy, I think there's an argument for both.
Yeah, especially Dean more often than not wants to prioritize a good defensive shape,
Yeah.
not get too many goals scored on versus Schnegg's the opposite. He wants to go and bomb forward. Vaughn, how does Charlotte continue to do this? Find these really good pieces from college. Will Cleary told us himself he found out on Twitter, that he was coming to Charlotte. Right.
No,
And so that's kind of crazy that, another draft pick and then another player that seems like he's going to be a really good MLS player.
I think it's several things. I mean, it's a commitment to scouting, right? It's having a department that's dedicated to those efforts. Not every team has that. I think it's valuing players that are coming out of collegiate programs. There's other places. How many college guys are going to make the roster at Miami? Probably not many.
Yeah.
And so I think Charlotte is really unique in how it values a kind of a little bit of everything, right? We need to have those guys we get from the college game. We have to get young players from abroad that we're going to build up, whether it's through the legacy focused approach or if it's directly into the first team. We're going to need to have guys that we're going to go and just have to sign and just take a big gamble on. And so, you'd think, oh, we spend all this money to get a Baye Coulibaly, like he's going to be the one that makes it into the first team roster. And it's like, no, the guy coming out of Stanford has every bit of a chance to make it onto the team and find meaningful minutes. And so it's a really unique setup, and I think we're doing a good job of that balance. And in this case, right, you create these position battles. Morrison, who thought Morrison was going to be our starting center back? Everybody was calling for the big signing, and then okay, they go and get Kessler, and you don't have him for half a year. It's credit to the scouting team. It's credit
I totally
to
forgot
Zoran.
about that. You're right.
Yeah, so I think that we created our own depth. You have to, under the MLS roster rules as they currently exist, you have to be willing to tap into all of those resources and find those gems and squeeze those minutes and quality minutes out of people that are coming from all different angles. And those are just two examples of guys on the back line where we're being successful at that.
Yeah, definitely. And I think for me it's important seeing wins in all these different categories, that you're mentioning. That obviously through recruiting players from college, I think hitting on DPs, and so I think Zaha, like in the overall scope, was a hit. Pep Biel is a hit. Maxi has potentials to be a hit, right? And so I'm like, okay, like they're kind of trending towards the right way, on these pieces as well. That kind of crown legacy to Charlotte FC pipeline when they buy players 2, 3, 4 million. It's still kind of 50-50, but we do get the Toclomatis of the world, the Alocos who now are are getting starts at Charlotte FC, right?
Or the Ajiamong that you start at Legacy and move on for $10 million.
Yeah, absolutely. And so awesome. I do also want to touch on a little bit on Maxi. I know we've talked about him, but he did mention that the turf was going to be something that he needed to get adjusted to. Obviously, I asked Dean Smith, post match, hey, is this a conversation that you have to have with players that when they're coming to Charlotte or they're considering Charlotte, like, you're going to be playing on a turf field, Maxi, like he mentioned that he's like, it's gonna take me some time to get used to that. And so, what do you make of something like that, Vaughn? Do you think that deters some players that could come to Charlotte FC to say, you know what, I'm good?
I think they sweep it under the rug, sweep it under the turf. Just don't bring it up. Don't make it a thing. These guys are athletes, right? They're able to play on grass or turf. Period. I think the bigger concern about playing on turf is the injury concern. Knock on wood, I don't think it's really the end of the world to be playing on turf. I think the technology is there, that it's not a factor. It's not like we have more guys going down with major leg injuries than other places. Same thing, knock on wood. But I don't think it comes up. I don't think that's a deciding factor for most players. I think that they're looking at, hey, what are the facilities for training? What's the quality of life going to be in this city? What if they've got a family? What are the schools that my kids are going to be in? The team, do I believe that this team is set up stylistically for how I want to play and how I want to do things? I don't think Dean and the player are having a conversation over, man, do you think I can dribble on this stuff? Like, I don't think that's it. It's just part of the adjustment period. It's part of what you have to acclimate to, whether it's the travel of MLS, the physicality of MLS, the different surfaces of MLS. That's the thing that players maybe overlook or don't understand or have to take some time just getting tuned and calibrated for that. But it's well within any athlete that's playing at that level. They can do it. It's fine.
Yeah, I think it definitely, like you mentioned it's more of like, I would say it would be more alarming or more of a concern if we've seen consistent like players get injured. I do think Guzman Corujo suffered because of that. He had tore his ACL here and then wasn't able to be the same player he was post that. Now can you blame that all on the turf? Maybe not, but at the same time, that's just an example. But I don't think there's a volume of examples where we can point out, this is the fourth player that's come here now, and something's happened because of the turf.
I will say, Jorge, Dean did make a good point on that he will use Ashley Westwood as kind of his salesman for the turf, and I think this was a good point that he brought up because, Ashley had nearly
Terrible
a
injury.
career-ending injury. And apparently he loves playing the turf. That's what Dean said, that he loves the turf. And so that he uses Ashley a lot. When that question does come up, he has them talk to Ashley, who had, again, like nearly a career ender.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Has
That's
been playing on the turf for now, 4 seasons. And so I think
when Ashley is
one
missing
advantage.
the grass, he'll just go play some golf. So
Yeah.
that's true. Imagine they have a whole like video of like Westwood like consider playing on turf. Come with me. Let me show you what like a little sales pitch video. Yes. Okay. All great points. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just very interesting that, like, you know, that was the one thing that, ASM mentioned. Like, okay,
Yeah.
like this is totally different. And I think other players feel that, but again, like he's the type of guy that's just gonna tell you how it is in a way. And so it's like similarities with Zaha, but in different ways. I don't know how to put it actually. Like they both like say how they feel, but the way it comes out feels different, you know?
similar spices, different flavors.
There you go. Perfect. I'm gonna start using that as well. Um Another thing I do want to touch on as well is Leah Labata. Brian, you were at the press conference. Dean mentioned, that, it's looking like, he's going to stay here for the remainder of the season. Earlier this summer, I was told 75 to 90% gone. We're looking for a way to get him out. Obviously, things have changed. I think part not being able to find the right suitor, part, even Leo Labata, he's performed a bit better, post World Cup. So plus on him. But talk to us a little bit about that. What did you hear? And also, what can we expect for the rest of the season?
Yeah, Dean said they had no bids that they were willing to consider come through, and that's kind of what I said on the show last time. I mean, I didn't expect any serious offer to come through, just given the state of where his contract is at. Like if Vancouver only got 2 million for Sebastian Berhalter, who's a best 11 MLS player in like maybe the most pivotal role on one of the best teams, and was maybe the key guy, especially down the stretch, for like Vancouver being as good as they like. There's a lot of reasons why Berhalter should earn like a max amount of value on his kind of move. Similar age to Abada as well. And if he was only getting 2 million compared to Abada, who's on a larger salary than Berhalter or in the larger price range, and has nowhere lived up to the bill that Berhalter has at his current state, I just didn't feel like there was any way a serious like offer was going to come in monetarily. It was just going to come down for me to whether or not Charlotte was like, we're trying to cut our losses and open the DP spot, or we want to run with him through the remainder of the season. Now, I do think, to Abada's credit, I think him and Dean, I think there's something also in the locker room that he vibes well with everyone. I think Dean has made that point pretty clear, that he likes his personality and he likes the way he works. And so that clearly has gone a long way and given him a pretty long amount of time to kind of get reacclimated and adjusted. And I think this also goes to show just how little Dean kind of thinks of. I mean, he's mentioned this as well. Like, he hates the DP rule. He hates the idea of thinking of players in contract status. Now, whether that's right or wrong, I also have asked him, like, what does that mean when you bring a $30 million transfer? Is that not kind of like the same thing?
Yeah, dude. I mean, like, to put it in a bigger scale. Yeah, I mean, like, Florian Wirtz is getting heavy criticism from game one at Liverpool, because they paid a lot of money for him, right? He is quote unquote a DP at that team, right? And so, like with you, I'm like, okay, like I see what Dean says, but honestly, I don't buy that, you know? And so also, I want to know, like, what do they consider a good offer? A guy who hasn't been consistent here, that they paid a lot of money for. What is a good offer to get Leah Labata moved on? I don't understand what we're looking for, And so I think that's more of a question of Charlotte and the FO and what they're willing to accept versus them just saying, oh, we're not getting a good offer, So
it may just be posturing. It could just be that there's nothing at all.
Yeah.
No, for me, Abada right now, I think, is also the team would be in a worse spot with him not on the roster today. Yes, if he's off the roster, you can go sign another DP, but you have to execute that signing and you have to get the right guy, and it has to fit within the mix. And right now, if you took Abada off of this roster, we are dangerously thin on the wings. And I think that is right now what that conversation is, of an offer that makes sense. We have to receive value that justifies putting ourselves in a bad position down the stretch and into the playoffs. We have to be willing to make a move that might mortgage my present for my future. And you can make the argument that Abada is no good and that he can't help the team, but I think right now he's found a role within this team that he is contributing more than he has historically. And yeah, I think he had a long stretch of bad form. I think that we haven't seen him play with a lot of confidence. And to that point of what we see from Maxi or from Zaha or even from a Loco, right? It's you are imparting your personality on the pitch. And I think Abada has been in such bad form and playing with the pressure of that DP tag. He doesn't play loose and free. He hasn't played free-flowing soccer. He hasn't stood out on the pitch as just like a step above everyone else. And so right now, I think he's finding ways to be impactful, to use space, to use his speed, to play well off ball and make recovery runs in ways that he hasn't over his tenure here. I think some of that has to do with playing on the left, but we saw that he got his assist in this last game playing on the right. So Abada's not perfect. I think we all can recognize that it would help the team to have a higher level DP. I think it's coming. The timing is just not going to happen now like a lot of people want.
Yeah, I think, and I think to his credit right now, he's coming in and contributing, right? And so that's important, right? Versus he wasn't contributing like this last year, not in the frequency that he has, at least post World Cup. And Timos, this is a great point because Zoran did mention this. This is going to be one of the most important post World Cup windows, right? And they've mentioned this, how they're ready for this calendar change. Summer is the best window to do things. Now, my question now becomes, and I'll start off with you, Vaughn. How is it? Walk me through why it's more beneficial to keep. Well, you have touched on this, to keep Abada, but kind of forfeit that opportunity to get a DP right now, because it's going to be more difficult to bring in the type of DP they want in the winter, based on what they've told us in the past.
It depends on what you have lined up, right? You don't know what deals are coming to you. You don't know that you're getting the fair market price that you want. You may not be trying to overspend. Like I can tell you the dollars that Sporting KC just spent on Andre Luiz, it's like an absurd number. Like a guy that has a $6 million valuation is being bought for $22 million. Like that's crazy. So it could be that the targets you're pursuing, just the timing's not right. It's not quite coming. The negotiations aren't going quite the way you want, or we just don't feel it's right. I mean, there's so much of this roster that's going to get turned over with this schedule change. I think that's a big curveball that's happened for all of these teams, is these contracts are going to be ending mid-season. And what do we do with this sprint season? And when do we want to be set up for success? Maybe I don't want to buy a guy right now to know that 6 months of his contract is going to get burned on a sprint season, right? Like to a certain degree, I might want to gear up and say, no, I want to prepare for just after the sprint season and have my contracts being fresh then. I think that there's just a lot of factors that are at play, and you have to make some real assessments. You look at the team and you say, are we one guy away? What's the answer to that? It's hard to answer.
We don't know. Yeah, we don't know. I mean, I think we're definitely on the right path, for the most part, Brian?
Yeah, I will say that this is also kind of par for the course in terms of how Charlotte tends to approach their summer window. I feel like the ASM move is actually kind of strange that it happened so early. I feel like usually the summer window Zorn in the front office tend to leave things till the end. And Zorn's even mentioned this. He likes to see what opportunities present themselves after the trickle effect occurs from the big leagues and how things kind of shift. And as things shift down, he likes to see what might be available towards the end. We saw that with Miguel Almiron, right? All these different kind of situations where like, hey, opportunities might be presenting themselves. And that's when it seems like more Charlotte kind of just attention comes into the play in this last week. So I guess that would be just the one caveat is just, and that was one of the things Zorn mentioned is his issue with the windows not being matched up. Is like, hey, I can't do what I want towards the end of the window because I don't get the negotiating power of actually having the windows lined up with the Premier League and everywhere else. And so I do think this last week it'll be at least interesting in respect of like, does one of those last minute moves kind of come into play? Because I would say that that's the one thing, even though Dina said like, hey, I haven't seen any, we haven't seen any bids come in that we would like. I do think there's a chance that if this, the pieces fall where they may and that opportunity presents itself, Charlotte has shown a tendency to try to attack quickly in those last moments. So that would be my one caveat. So the window's not closed, and Charlotte tends to leave things pretty late in the summer. That's just been their pattern year over year over year. I don't think there's been 1 year where they haven't made a signing almost on the last day.
Yeah, that's a great point too, right? And so at least this time we're looking for a domestic player, not somebody that's going to take another 4 months for a visa. So
yep.
That's the one positive I would say. So
and that too, you've got 13 games left in the season. Like when the window wraps up, you got 12 games. That's not a lot.
Yeah.
It's a short ramp.
Yeah,
for sure.
I will say the one other like kind of argument, and this isn't to say one side is right or wrong. The one argument for trying to make the bigger moves this summer is almost to use because like there's the one caveat is like to just skip the sprint season and wait till the next summer. I think the other option is for teams that are maybe shooting their shot now to use the sprint season almost as a jumping board to kind of get everybody into play for the 2027-28 run. Now, I don't know we won't know which strategy is preferred until 27-28 season, but I think we've kind of seen both strategies play out a little bit so far this summer.
Yeah, I will say though, the way they hyped up, post World Cup, like this is going to be such an important window, such an important time for MLS. I'm like, bro, there's less people going to games. There's less people going to the Charlotte FC games. There's less people going to the Atlanta United games, and these are typically two very strong markets for attendance, right? And again, like right now is, to my point, where, a lot of these players, especially the ones that played in the World Cup, got a sense of what it's like to play in the US. And there was a lot of positive feedback, from that. So that's one of the things, that momentum may not be there this time next year, and so on the plus side, we do see the trajectory continue to go up for MLS, so they have that. But, maybe those deals that could have gotten done this summer, we're kind of losing out on because we don't have an opportunity to bring in another DP or a player of that caliber.
And we're saying this in a window where we signed a DP for a record transfer fee for the club.
Yeah, that's true too. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, but it was like for like, kind of, because we lost Zaha.
Yes, but from the business perspective, that's going to be the argument is we signed a DP for a record transfer fee from a top 5 league and somebody we believe is going to take the team to the next level. So yeah, you've got Pep Biel, who's a MVP conversation adjacent guy. You got Maxi, who looks electric and looks like he could level up the club. And yes, you have to figure out what the future is for Abada and beyond. And I think the team will do that. But I think I'm more surprised that the team hasn't made more signings on all 3 lines. Like historically, every single window, Zoran's been pretty consistent about making a signing for an attacking line, a midfield line, a defensive line. And I think we're going to get 2 of those. I think ultimately what's going to happen is we got Maxi, he's the attacking line, and we have mystery trialist who's ultimately going to be that other signing. And I think that's a midfielder, but I don't know yet.
Cool. Awesome. All right. Let's move on and talk a little bit about Atlanta United. Obviously, rivalry game, although it hasn't felt like a true rivalry just yet, in the years that we've played them. But, it's getting there. Obviously, a team that hasn't done well this season or previous seasons as well. But they're kind of on a bounce up, Brian. And I think Atlanta's the type of team, from what I've seen, that they're going to continue to throw money till they get it right.
Yeah.
And we see that now, big signing with Mbolo coming in, 3 wins off the bounce for them. They're on a positive track. Talk to me about Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean they've won 3 in a row, and I mean I think that it's definitely the most positivity I feel like they've had as an organization in quite a while. That and getting I think Latte Loth off the books was and replacing him with a DP and Embolo. I think that was probably the most positive sign for Atlanta so far this season. I feel like the whole conversation there is just like, how do you get Latte Loth out of here, and how do you then also replace him in enough time to actually have a new signing potentially make a difference. And actually, Mbolo's coming in at a decent time. Like I feel like Almiron's starting to find a little bit of form. Moranchuk has been kind of an interesting player there because he's like super talented, hasn't quite fit, but still is finding a way to maybe piece together at least some goal contributions here. So I mean, Mbolo could be coming in at a decent time for them. I think they're still obviously far and away from where Charlotte's at, and Charlotte should go into this game with a good amount of confidence, like they have, and they should have this last week against both Toronto and DC, and they should, I feel like they have a good record in Atlanta, at least of late, and they should get the job done, and there shouldn't be any reason why they feel like they can't. I feel like this is a big reason why the rivalry hasn't felt that good, is because Atlanta have just literally been so bad. You need a good rivalry, needs two good teams pushing each other and iron sharpening iron. Until that happens, you just don't really have, you can say they're geographically close or whatever you want, but at the end of the day, like, a good rivalry requires two teams chomping at the bit that are pushing for the same kind of stakes, and that's what makes the difference. And so I don't feel like that's still quite there. I think Atlanta, maybe with this 3-game streak, is at least maybe eyeing like a 9th or 8th spot in the playoffs outside looking in, but like, it's still, I feel like for me, the rivalry is Nashville Charlotte right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that as well. And I think it just needs, like, rivalries also have like spicy moments.
Yeah.
Like, and so we still haven't had that from these games. We do have, and Dennis mentions it, like, the fans turn up, they show up for that
Yeah.
game. We
100%.
brought in tons of fans. You can hear them sometimes over their crowd, which has been phenomenal, and so one of the things I was worried about, like, playing, I was like, are we ever going to have, like, I I like having a status DP like Zaha and now ASM. Like, these guys are, to me, like, kind of like the streets will never forget kind of players. And
Yeah.
so just like Zaha likes mentioning, but I really like that, and so because we've seen that in the way that Atlanta attacks their market as well. I mean, they were also linked with Darwin Nunez earlier in this window. They were linked with Romelu Lukaku as well, and so I mean, they're getting a quality guy in Embolo. Let's see how it turns out here. But Vaughn, what are you expecting from this match?
I'm expecting a road result from Charlotte FC. I am expecting really to walk away with 3 points. This is the sort of game that you should be going into and getting that result, with it having that extra energy of a rivalry game. But to that point, right? Rivalries are built on, for me, organically on moments of consequence. It is those fights and tussles that happen. It is the 2-goal leads that get flipped on their head. It is the, consequential red card for a dirty tackle. Like, those are the sort of things that add real hatred between clubs, right? And I think also sometimes it's envy, right? You envy what the other team has. And I think that's where some of that started, is like, man, Atlanta was a model franchise as an expansion team. They came out of the gates and set high standards for an expansion team. They went on and got a title by the second year. They had a player, a DP, that was setting goal scoring records in the league, right? Like, these are the things that then Charlotte comes into the league and you say, I want that, and I'm going to have it, and I'm going to do it even better. And so, yeah, heading into this game, it doesn't have that energy. It doesn't have that. I don't think anybody wants to be in Atlanta's shoes right now if you're a Charlotte FC fan.
Yeah.
You might want Embolo, right? You might want that big DP signing, but that does not equal necessarily championship level results.
Yeah.
And I think most people in Atlanta would love to be in Charlotte FC's shoes right now. But to your point of who's Charlotte FC's rival, Nashville, yeah, we want to be the team that is sitting in the lead of the supporter shield. We wanted to be the team that signed Christian Espinoza as your big offseason signing. You wanted to be the team that leveled up leading to the season, leading into the World Cup. And so Nashville's the one that executed that, but they're a tier above us. We're still the ones envying them. They're not envying us.
Absolutely. It's a great way to put
so
it.
you have to punch them in the face to do that, and knock them down a notch or make them lose something. And that's what will lead to those organic sort of things. Hopefully for us this year, that's going to be in a deep playoff run and games that are meaningful. But for this game against Atlanta, no, my expectation is punch them in the mouth because you should. Like, get another 3-1 result because you should. Like, don't blow a lead because you shouldn't. Like, go out, impose your style, be the better side, and kick them hard.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. I think we're missing like a good playoff, game against even Nashville. Like a Nashville Charlotte FC series or an Atlanta Charlotte FC series in playoffs, that really like pushes that forward,
Well,
so, I
and
mean,
you saw what like the Nashville Miami series did. I feel like for Nashville, I'm sure that plays a role in their mindset as to okay, we know what we were missing and what to get to that next level because it was just Nashville Miami games for like an entire month, and it was just like a month of them going back and forth. But then like Nashville knew they like had another level they needed to get to in order to be able to get past that hurdle, get past some of those that boogeyman, and then they did that this year multiple times, and I feel like that is that's for me, that's what if you want to see like a budding rivalry or like what a rivalry kind of takes, I think it's that those moments like Nashville got kicked in the mouth by Messi just over and over and over again, and they're like, we're not letting this happen to us again. We're going to be opportunistic in the transfer window with Espinoza and other guys they've gotten. And it's just, they've found a way to like get past that situation. And I think that's one thing that Charlotte's missing. They don't have that team that has kind of maybe set the bar maybe against them specifically in, again, those big moments. I mean, New York City kind of did last year, but it still doesn't feel like there's like anything between the two teams. And I feel like it is kind of missing in terms of like, hey, Dean, this is now the next level you need to get to. You saw it face to face multiple times across a playoff series or whatever it takes. And yeah, I think Charlotte could honestly use that battle, use that moment against somebody.
And the intensity of the rivalry is also waning. Yeah. Right. Go into either stadium and the seats are not as full as they were.
Yeah.
Right. So I think it's also the vibes, the energy is different than it has been.
Yeah. Versus to your point, Brian, even like Nashville now has a rivalry with Club America, for what happened in that series between them, and so like, but it takes important games and it takes being a good team, to build some of that, right? And so, again, I'm kind of on your boat, Vaughn. Like, I think it's a game that we can win, Now, for me, again, it's like I don't know I don't like Charlotte has shown at least 4 times this season where I'm like, how did we not win this? And I feel like we can set ourselves up again for another moment like that. And so I guess we'll wrap up the show with a couple of score predictions. And I'll start off with you, Vaughn. Give us what the score will be and who will score. Will we see another Abada masterclass?
I'm not going to go on that much of a limb, but I'm going to go with a 3-1 win. I'm going to say we're going to really set history and get our 4th straight with 3 goals. So dang, I think that's pretty bold. And sure, BL, Archie. I'm going to ride with Archie, and I don't know. Abada has done well in against Atlanta.
Yep.
Fine, I'll stick to my guy.
All right, nice. A little Obata goal. Brian?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's going to be plenty of goals in this game. Last year, what it ended up, I think it ended 3-2 as well. I think there's, I mean, I don't respect Atlanta's defense much at all. They've made a lot of changes there. I definitely think Charlotte could get another 3 again this week. I think I'll go 3-2. I think there's going to be some fight back and forth, and I think this is going to be a high scoring affair. 3-2 Charlotte. BL for sure is going to get one. I think I'll go Toklomati. He got one against Atlanta in Atlanta last year, I believe, as well. And then I think Archie will get a third off the bench.
Dang, big Archie fans over here.
Yeah.
Oi, oi,
Probably
oi.
should have gone with a defender, to be honest, based on their scoring.
Yeah, dude, set piece FC, bro.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I'm gonna go for a 2-1 win, and so I'm gonna hit. I was just gonna say that I think we're due for a Morrison Ajiman header, and so I think he'll score. And last year was Zaha that went there and cooked, and I'm gonna say this year it will be an ASM goal just to keep the tradition alive of RDP's cooking in Atlanta. That would be phenomenal, and so I'm gonna stick with a 2-1. And I think it's going to be important too because Charlotte's kind of fighting, right there for that third spot, in the East. I think obviously like no one's taken number 1 from Nashville. And I think Miami will be consistent enough to finish second, and so everybody else I can kind of see as kind of being in that race, especially if we continue to play well, outside of Charlotte. And
Although I will
so
say Chicago's a serious problem, I think, at this
Yeah.
point. I think Chicago's pretty for real. And if they don't step on if Charlotte doesn't step on the gas and stay on the gas, I think Chicago's a serious problem in my book.
yeah, but I do see like they're within range of
Yeah.
Charlotte though.
Yep.
So it's kind of up to us as well to kind of stay there, Even if we finished 4th this season,
Yeah.
I'm not mad, and so
Yeah.
I had a 6th, finishing this season, or I think I said 5th, but I thought that's where we were at. But we're kind of entering the final third of the season and we're still right there, which is a really good sign. Obviously, I'd love to still be in Leagues Cup, but that's a conversation we already had. With that said, Vaughn, where can people find you at?
At VI Pullman on socials. Yep.
Nice. Brian?
You can find me on X at Bam Bam Mauer Media, written content, topin90.com.
Nice. And you can find that new Charlotte FC player on the trial list for Charlotte. Jorge Gonzalez. We're top bin on all our socials. Thank you guys for joining us tonight. Hopefully, we're back next week with a Charlotte dub. Woo woo!